Thank you for joining me for another Quick Hits conversation. I'm Dr. Robyn, aka Mental MacGyver. I provide luxury level high performance support and coaching to executives, founders, celebrities, and athletes. With me today, I have Daisy Cedeño. She has 20 years as a communications coach for the Latino market and a multimedia journalist for TV and radio stations on the East Coast, based in Florida. I have Bonnie Sussman-Versace. She's the reimaginer at Focused LLC, where she specializes in developing leaders, building positive and productive workplace cultures, and improving individual, team, and enterprise-wide performance. And I have Stewart Wiggins. He's with Induna Advisors, where he offers fractional chief operating officer services and brings resources together to help scale your business. The question I have today is leadership an art or a science? Bonnie, what do you think?
It's a discussion that's been on the table for probably at least 75 years. It is something that I have studied and written about for the past few years and tried to learn as much as I can about it and observe people, etc. I don't have an answer. I really don't. We sometimes get to a point where we're doing leadership development with a particular individual and they get so far and they can't seem to progress. And then on the other hand, there's other people that it's like, you've been doing this your whole life. You've been kidding us. When you get into whether it is an art or science, I think it can be both or it can be neither.
Daisy, what do you think?
I love this topic. I read about this all the time. I'm fascinated about this topic because it's about humans, it's about humanity, it's about who we are in society and who we are as people. So when I was looking for an answer for this, because I never even thought about, science, art, I never even put these two together. Science, it's evidence. And when you are looking for results, when you have a team, you need evidence. But then art, what is art? Process, product, appeals to the sense, appeals to the emotion. When you have to deal with people, you have to do all of that. It's a discipline that connects with results, science, that's science right there. You need a hypothesis, there's elements that you need a structure and a logistics. So that's science. But then we cannot forget about the human aspect. And that's emotions, personalities, intention, where we go. And so it is, to me, a combination of both. But it depends a lot on the people involved and also the intention. That's when you see if art is more than the science.
Both of you have demonstrated the dichotomy that exists on this topic. On the surface, I would want to say, well, it's a blend between the both. If it's such an easy answer, then why is it that everybody's trying to teach somebody else about leadership? The issue is not whether you can teach it, but can you make it stick? And you could stand in front of a group of people and talk about leadership and do all these other exercises and that type of thing. How do you actually teach someone to apply what was learned? So when we talk about whether it's an art or a science, the science is the teaching. The science is the stand up there and it's measurable and it's empirical and all those other things. I've been in organizations where every single year you get some sort of leadership training. But if there's so much leadership training, then why are there so many bad leaders? Leadership is action. Leadership is not words. People observe what you do. I've had high enough levels where I know that the things that I do have been much more effective as opposed to the words that I say. You can certainly stand up in front of a group of people and make a nice speech and everybody applaud and everybody be inspired with it. But once they walk out of the room, what do they take with them? So what I'm going to suggest is that even though it's a blend, leadership is the art. And the art is formed from the science of teaching it. You can't forget about it on a daily basis. In fact, you have to talk about it on a daily basis. You're not going to build leaders. You're only going to add the components to help someone be perhaps a better leader or more action-oriented.
I think that leadership is much like athletics. It's one of those things that pretty much everybody can go for a jog or pick up a bat and swing it or whatever. Like everybody has a certain level of ability when it comes to athletics, but then there's levels of it. And some people can be pro athletes. Some people can be pro leaders, like they're just really good at it naturally. And any coaching you get, any training you get can take whatever base level talent you have and make it better. But someone who has a really low level base coming in is never going to get to the level that somebody who comes in at a super high level is going to get if they get some coaching. So I feel like, yes, there's a certain amount of it that is art, inherent, you're born with it, but it varies from person to person. And then there's a certain amount of it that is learnable, and then you can add on top of what you bring to the table innately, if you will.
It can also be experiential and situational. So I hear what you're saying, Dr. Robyn. If someone comes in with the skills or the talent or whatever and can only go so far, but what happens when someone then has an experience or is introduced to someone who just totally takes them off guard, and they have an either inspirational or situational or something happens to them, or even a trauma. It could be a trauma that changes someone. You can also look at it and say art, science, but then what happens if there's something that changes the direction or trajectory of that person's life? What do you do with that?
It's not what happened to you, it's how you receive it. You have to be ready to take it as an opportunity for always.
Yeah.
When you were talking about that, you have to be able to be open. I was thinking about, can we have too much art? And maybe that will be productive to the science part, because we need a structure. We need to be ready, but we need a structure to follow, to see what we're going to do with whatever project, team. And that's the science. So maybe it has to be a balance. At the end of the day, we're dealing with people. And when we forget that, I mean, we can get results, we can make things happen, but at what cost? Because maybe we're not going to have the same team next year. Because yeah, we got the results, but they are not coming back. There was a disruption of the connection of the team. So I feel like we need the science part, and the art. It's very like, depends on the person, depends on the team. It depends on so many elements that it is very connected to the emotions, the culture of the team.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about, it's like being on a sports team. And if you have a chance, turn on Netflix and watch a show called Quarterback. It's six episodes. They're really short, but they followed 3 quarterbacks in the NFL this year. So most people by definition think that, okay, the quarterback is the leader of the football team. Well, you'll see 3 different leadership styles there, okay? And you can remind yourself this conversation and say, okay, was this an art or a science, or each of these people born with the ability to lead? Secondly, I think really that leadership is how someone responds when circumstances occur that are unpredicted. Like, for example, when I was in the military, there were lots of loudmouth guys and guys beating their chest, and even in civilian life. But as soon as something happened that was unexpected, that's when the real leaders come. Now, were they sitting in the back of the room listening to being taught on how to respond? Or is there something innate in them that said, okay, now I have to take advantage of this and lead the organization? In fact, I have a regular conversation with a friend of mine who says, in fact, in civilian life, there are no real leaders, and, that's probably another conversation. I tend to disagree with him. In fact, my argument was, well, maybe you just haven't been in the right organizations where there have been leaders. But this is the final point I'd like to make. This discussion isn't over. 10 minutes doesn't cover it. And we could talk about this much longer. But at the end of the day, leadership, again, is the point I want to make, is leadership is action. You can see it. Anybody can talk, but leadership is action. So is it an art or a science? It's a blend.
Yes, the answer is yes, it's both.
It's both.
So, thank you so much for having this conversation with me, and I look forward to speaking to each of you again very soon.
Thank you.